Call the council meeting to order tonight. Tonight will be led in prayer by Councilmember Gerald Bennigan. After the invocation, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
Please let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we pray this evening for what we all want as families, love, laughter, and dreams. We also pray for the homeless, the underemployed, the unemployed, that we might provide them hope. We also look at a future with unlimited opportunities and remember the Lakota saying that we are all related in family. We pray for all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved, Jamison.
Jamison, is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Brown seconds. Further discussion on the motion to approve the consent agenda? Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Council members Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
All members present have voted. The consent agenda has been approved 8-0. On the regular agenda, is there a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
Kavanaugh moves. Jamison seconds. Further comments on the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to
Yes.
make an amendment to move items 17 through 23 ahead of item 16, please.
Second, Litz.
17 through 23 ahead of 16. The motion been made and seconded by Litz. Further comments on that motion? Hearing no further comments on that motion. All in favor of that motion will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Council members Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
All members present voted 8-0. That motion passes. Now we're back to the main motion as amended. All in favor of approving the regular, is there any further motions? Seeing no further motion, all in favor of approving the regular agenda as amended, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Council members Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
All members present voted that regular agenda has been approved 8-0 as amended. This is a time that we set aside 5 minutes for anyone that wishes to address the council on any topic of interest to them. And if anybody is interested in addressing the council for 5 minutes, come forward, give your name and your address, please. Seeing no one come forward, we will move into the regular agenda, item number 17.
Lori Bossman with the City Finance Office. Item 17 is a new 2006-2007 retail malt beverage license for Commonwealth, Inc. for Deuces Casino. This would be at 520 South Valley View Road, including video lottery terminals. Item 18 is a new 2006-2007 retail malt beverage license for Frustrated, Inc. for Nitwits Comedy Club to be operated at 3224 East 10th Street. 19 is a new retail wine license also for Nitwits Comedy Club. Item 20 is a special one-day liquor license to be held at the Old Courthouse Museum for a wedding reception. 21 is a special one-day wine license for Habitat for Humanity to be held at the Trail Ridge Retirement Community for a Habitat fundraiser. Item 22 is a special one-day wine license for Senior Citizen Services, Inc. for a wine tasting event. And item 23 is a special one-day wine license for the YWCA for a fundraiser. And I can answer questions on 17 through 23.
Are there questions of 17, Jerome?
Mayor Munson, I'd like to excuse myself because of a conflict on item 22.
Okay, if you want, you could, we could vote on all except that one, for, if you want to do that. And then, is that okay with the council if we want to do that? Let's do that. We'll vote separately on the item number 22. We'll vote for 17 through 21, then 23, if that's okay. Dee?
I just had a question for Lori on one of the
Sure.
items. Lori, regarding item number 17,
Okay.
which is the 520 South Valley View Road, including video lottery terminals and so forth, even though I am no fan of video lottery at all, but even putting that aside, I had an email from a constituent over the weekend, and he had spent some time driving that area and so forth, and my question is, he talked about that Hayward School was only 9 blocks away and Dunham Park was only maybe about 5 blocks away, and anyway, it's a fairly long email. But my question is there really 2,000 feet? Does the ordinance really, is there really 2,000 feet between the other casinos there?
Okay. The ordinance states that a new video lottery establishment, if it's related to a retail malt beverage license, has to be 2,000 feet from any other video lottery establishment, 2,000 feet from an elementary or secondary school, and 2,000 feet from city park boundaries. And in this case, the applicant was very close. We had it mapped out through the GIS department, and they were very close. And our ordinances in that case allow us to request a professional survey be done. A survey was done, and it does show that they're just outside the 2,000 feet. Barely, just a little bit, but they are.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, other question. Thank you, Lori. Does the City Planning Commission in its land use decision take into account the malt beverage license 2,000-foot ordinance, or is this the responsibility of the City Council?
Yeah, it used to be that the Planning Commission would consider it, they would need to know if an item had video lottery attached with it. That is no longer the case. They just look at the land use only, and that the applicant is requesting alcohol sales at that particular location. So this would be the responsibility of the City Council and the applicant to provide the information that they are 2,000 feet away.
Okay, and I assume the correct signs were posted. This person ends his email with, "I saw no evidence of posting a sign on this piece of property."
That I would have to defer to Mike for a conditional use permit.
520 South Valley View Road.
Yes, Mike did say there would have been signs posted for the conditional use permit. There's no signs required for the alcohol licensing, but there would have been signs posted for the conditional use permit.
Last question, I promise.
Okay.
Since this was a conditional use permit, has the City Planning Department already addressed this concern? I guess conditional use.
And the concern he's asking about is the 2,000 foot, I assume?
Yes.
No, they would not have addressed the 2,000 foot.
Thank you.
And the applicant is here tonight if you have specific questions for him as well.
Further questions on, okay, Bob.
Just out of curiosity, what time does number 23 start?
It actually started at 6 o'clock, so she really appreciates being moved up on the agenda. She's waiting here, and the minute you vote, she's going to run across the street and take the wine out. So,
Further questions on items 17 through 21 or item 23? Others that wish to address the council on any one of those items just mentioned? Not, is there council discussion or action on items 17 through 21 and then 23, excluding 22 for now?
Move for approval, Jamison.
Jamison moved. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Brown seconds. Further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion to approve items 17 through 21 and 23 will vote yes. Those opposed vote no.
Councilmembers Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knutson,
No.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Benega.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Items 17 through 21 and 23 have been approved. We're at item 22. It will be noted that Council Member Jamison will be excused from the discussion and vote on item number 22. Is there questions or is there a motion on item 22? Anyone wish to address the council? Motions? Is there a motion on item 22?
Motion to approve, Costello.
Costello, is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Let's second. Further comments?
I'm noting that it's not on a city council day, so I'm inclined to grant this.
So, okay, we got a motion on item number 22, been made and seconded to approve it. All in favor of that motion to approve, will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
All members present voted 7 yes, 1 excused. Item 22 has been approved. Now we're back to item number 16.
Item 16 is a revocation conditional use permit, 1001 West 11th Street. The conditional use permit was to allow on-sale alcohol establishment as an accessory use to a restaurant. The Planning Commission recommends to continue the conditional use permit with stipulations.
Good evening, Mike Cooper, Planning and Building Services. Tonight, the City Council is being asked to consider the potential revocation of the conditional use permit for Lalabella Restaurant. And I just want to go through a little history so that we can kind of see how we got to this point tonight. On November 17th of 2003, the City Council approved a conditional use permit at this address for Lalabella Restaurant with the following stipulations. Number one, approved as an accessory use to a restaurant. And I should say the conditional use permit was for on-sale alcohol. That permit was approved provided it was an accessory use to a restaurant. Second, that it was approved for the applicant's business only. And number three, a security management plan had to be approved by the city police department. Later that year, following that approval in 2003, the applicant was issued a dance hall license by the city clerk's office. A dance hall license does not require a public hearing and is not a requirement of the zoning ordinance. The license only requires an application and a fee to be paid, and then representatives of the police and fire departments are consulted before the license is approved for a dance hall. And just as a side note, Lori Bossman is currently the person in charge of issuing those licenses. And I've recently had a discussion with her as a result of this item tonight, so that the planning department will now be involved in the review of these dance hall licenses, because what we've discovered in the case of tonight is that after an alcohol license is approved by the city council, we don't know that there's going to be a dance hall request made, and then they come in after the fact. And that's part of the problem that we've run into tonight with this particular application. So we are making changes to try to coordinate better between the finance department, which issues those licenses, and not only police and fire, but also planning and building services. In 2004, in January of 2004, a beer and wine license was approved at this address by the city council. And then kind of moving ahead to this year, on September 19th, 2006, during the public input at the city council meeting of that evening, we had neighbor property owners testify with concerns about the restaurant being operated other than a restaurant, and problems with noise and other complaints. After reviewing that, the planning department took a look at that, and on September 22nd, a letter was sent to the applicant notifying them that they are in non-compliance of the conditional use permit, and that they needed to come to the Planning Commission meeting on October 4th and the City Council meeting on October 16th. Specifically, the findings that we made are that, number one, the applicant was not operating this business with alcohol as an accessory use to the restaurant, primarily because of the dance hall license. The other violation that we felt needed to be reviewed is that up until that time, a security management plan had still not been presented and approved by the Sioux Falls Police Department. And over the last year, the police department indicated that we've had about 42 calls specifically at this address from October of 2004 to October of 2005. At the Planning Commission hearing, Jamie Simcoe, representing the applicant, the owner of the business, testified to the Planning Commission that currently the restaurant with an alcohol establishment is open from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. That's the restaurant. He also stated that on weekends, the dance hall stays open from 10 p.m. until 2 a.m. He also stated that the applicant would like to operate from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. as the restaurant and continue to operate the dance hall in the future, But because of the concerns and the complaints and the issues that we've been reviewing with the conditional use permit, the applicant agreed to basically close the dance hall or stop serving alcohol and come back through with a separate application for a dance hall at this location. The applicant's representative did state that 51% of the sales at this business are from food, 42% are from alcohol, and the remaining are from other beverages. Mr. Simcoe asked that rather than revocation, that the commission would allow them the chance to get in compliance with the current stipulations of the conditional use permit and then come back later for a separate permit for the dance hall license with alcohol. We also heard testimony that the petitioner has been working with Jerry James security firm to patrol the area, and they did indicate that they have a security plan that evening that they brought to the meeting, and they did leave that with the staff. I'm not sure that the police department has had a chance to review that and see if it is in compliance with what we would normally consider to be a security management plan. Officer Greg Schmidt of the Sioux Falls Police Department did testify at the hearing on the history of the police calls at this location, as again from October 1 of 05 through October 4th of 06, that there were 42 calls that came in after 11 o'clock p.m., and that during that year's time they've used 160 officers to respond to these calls. Officer Schmidt testified that these calls were mainly dealing with large crowds when they are called to this location, which required 4 to 6 mobile units to address the complaints. He also stated that they've done decibel checks and have found that the noise to be right at the maximum limit of our ordinances. We also heard from a couple of the neighbors that live close by to this address. Mary Kramer is a neighbor across the street, and she indicated that she has no complaints about the restaurant operating, but she does object to the dance hall and the hours that they're open and the crowd that they bring in specifically after 11 o'clock. And she indicated that she would like to see the restaurant at least closed by 11 o'clock p.m. Also, we heard testimony that the Black Sheep Coffee Shop also had a closing of 11 o'clock p.m. Another neighbor, Tim Kramer, testified with concerns about car stereos playing at night in the parking lot, with the dance hall music and the raucous crowds in the parking lot, with the problems that the security guards in some cases were not able to address. And in some cases, the neighbors could actually hear security guards yelling at the patrons, telling them to leave the premise. And again, he also stated that they have no problem with the restaurant operating at this location. Again, Mr. Simcoe testified that the applicant fully intends to take steps to comply with the current conditional use permit as they go through the process of coming in with another permit for the dance hall. And I believe that this week they did submit a conditional use permit to this planning department for consideration of a dance hall at this location. So we will be able to review that at separate public hearings. Based on the testimony that we heard from the petitioner, his representative, and the neighborhood, the Planning Commission made a motion to recommend that the conditional use permit be allowed to continue with the following stipulations. Number one, that the business hours would be limited to no later than 11 o'clock p.m. in order to allow the conditional use permit to continue. Number two, that the conditional use permit would need to be reviewed by the Planning Commission within 6 months. And number three, that the security management plan had to be approved by the police department in order for the conditional use permit to continue. And that motion was unanimously recommended to you tonight by the Planning Commission. Again, the City Council, you have the authority to accept those recommendations, to change those recommendations, or to come up with your own course of action tonight.
Questions, Bob?
Mike, the conditional use permit is more stringent than the dance hall permit is.
The conditional use permit was for on-sale alcohol only as an accessory use to a restaurant.
And that requires the council action. So that's of a higher level than a dance hall permit that they can get simply by paying the fee.
That's correct, yes.
What are the rules on a dance hall?
The rules, as I understand it, and I think Lori is still here, the applicant comes in with well, I should let Lori, since she's the one that issues those before. I'll let her address that.
All right, Lori Bossman, City Finance Office. In order to apply for a dance hall permit, they would simply come in, fill out an application. It's a one-page application. I would need their business name, address, phone, sales tax number, any of the officers or corporations, corporate members of the business, and then also the person completing the application and their personal information. Then they simply sign, pay the fee. It's $50 if it's 1,000 square feet or less, or $100 if it's more than 1,000 square feet. And then from there, I send the application to the police department for their review and check, and then I email, in the past, just the fire rescue department, and they notified me when I could go ahead and sign off on this. And the only other requirement is the photo ID, and that is for the police department. And so once I hear back from those departments, then we're able to issue the license. And it was issued originally in '03 and renewed every year since.
Is there a requirement that they have a beer and wine permit?
No,
for a dance
there's
hall?
not. It just happens to be that all of the dance hall permits that are currently active also have an alcohol license of some type. The only exception to that was Just Bounce, and they're no longer open. But no, there's no requirement that they need to have alcohol.
And is there hours of operation restriction?
Yeah, there's, it's in Section 6 of the city ordinances, and it says that they can operate, it just says, the dance hall shall not permit the dance or dance hall to be open for dancing or dancing participated in at the dance between the hours of 2 a.m. and 7:30 a.m. on any day of the week. So in other words, they can be open from 7:30 to 2 a.m. and then on Sundays, 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. And then they need to flash their lights at 1:45 and that type of thing. The same thing that a business with alcohol would need to do.
So they're really basically the same as bar hours?
Right, they're the same, pretty much the same hours.
Thank you.
Kevin was next thing.
Did I hear you, Mike, just say that they gave up their dance hall permit or it was revoked?
At the Planning Commission hearing, the applicant indicated that they would be willing to stop the dance hall, or at least stop serving alcohol at the dance hall, and then come back through with a new conditional use permit to allow them to serve alcohol, not only with the restaurant, but also with the dance hall. And the petitioner is here tonight, so I don't know if they've closed the dance hall, if they've just stopped serving alcohol.
Well, given the process that Lori just explained, the planning office and the council would have no input into that decision.
Well, again, okay, go ahead.
Well, that's true that they wouldn't, and the applicant has not contacted me to tell me that they're no longer operating as a dance hall. And so that license, the current license they have would be effective through 12/31, unless they notified me differently.
Yeah, just to clarify a few things. This new dance hall license, if they were not going to serve alcohol, they would not have to have a conditional use permit, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And then also, too, trying to revoke this conditional use permit for the sale of alcohol, I don't know, I guess the comments that were made tonight, it seems like they are actually complying with it, because 50% of their business is food, 42% is alcohol. Aren't they complying with it?
They are serving, or they were up until the Planning Commission hearing, they have been serving alcohol after the restaurant closes and when the dance hall is open, and that is a violation of the conditional use permit.
So maybe, what is accessory use? How's that defined in
When
city
you go into a
ordinance?
restaurant and order a meal, you can order some type of alcoholic beverage. That's accessory.
So, once again, I guess I was thinking in terms of the overall business, they are serving 50% food and 42% alcohol. And if you look at it that way, they're not in violation.
I guess I'm not sure how much more clearly I can state that a dance hall serving alcohol is a violation of the conditional use permit.
Well,
It's
a
the
restaurant.
conditional use permit
Yeah.
was approved specifically to allow on-sale alcohol establishment as an accessory use to a restaurant.
A restaurant? with-
Yes.
Okay, a dance hall license. Is that, okay.
D was next.
Mike or Lori, I'm a little bit more confused than I think I should be right at this moment, is that I, of course, believe that all stipulations of conditional use permits should be followed to the T with no exceptions. So that's just a given with me and I think other members on this council. But saying that, it seems to me then that this applicant should, again, comply 100% with city ordinance. But the more I think about this item, I mean, I really do not think that I favor at this time encouraging them to close earlier than other commercial businesses in that area or in our whole city, nor am I at this time, after more reflection, interested in them giving up their dance hall license. I just want them to follow the law and get their act together totally. And I'm worried that we are maybe leaning right now toward being tougher with them than others, others even in the news recently.
Pat?
Mike, the 51%, was that including their sales after the restaurant closed, or was that just the restaurant portion of it?
That was a statement that was made by the applicant's attorney. That's all that I can
Because it
tell
seemed
you.
that would kind of be kind of a key factor in this whole thing. And my next question is on the Planning Commission, when they determine something as to be an accessory use, where is the grounds for that? I can't help but wonder that we've been over-restrictive in using that, and it seems like if we were using or enforcing our ordinances that we have now, noise ordinances, and if it's zoned properly, that's maybe a limitation that's unfair.
We started doing that a number of years ago when video lottery really took off, and the concern was when somebody comes in for an alcohol license, is it going to be a bar or is it going to be a restaurant? And sometimes there's a fine line between the two, but what we try to do is we try to separate those as much as we can so that the neighborhood knows what's going on and the city council knows what's going on. And that's why we've come up with this category of an on-sale alcohol establishment as an accessory use to a restaurant, because there's a big difference between a restaurant and a bar.
To carry that thought a little bit forward so that the neighborhood was put on notice and during the conditional use process that it was a restaurant.
Yes.
And that it would be, assuming that, were the hours posted at that time, that it would only be open till 11 o'clock?
We did not stipulate any hours of operation. I don't know that there were any presented at that time.
And I bring this up because I think we saw it a little bit on the Arrive thing last month. I personally thought that the restrictions that the Planning Commission had put on that establishment didn't make any sense from the standpoint that it was, we're telling these people, make an investment into our community, bring something to us that we want, because I think we had openly encouraged as a city to bring nightlife and development to the downtown core, but yet tie one hand behind their back that they have no chance to survive. And so I'm a little bit uncomfortable with the way the Planning Commission is limiting these businesses. It seems like we should, either they're going to be zoned properly, we're going to allow them to exist and operate, or we're not.
Again, I'll respond that the conditional use that we're considering tonight, there were no stipulations put on it. We're just trying to enforce the ordinance as you've approved it.
Kevin, did you have one?
As I understand this, they operate as a restaurant until 10 or 11 p.m.?
Yes, and then
Did they close the restaurant?
I believe so, but again, the petitioner's here tonight, and maybe
Can we ask him that?
the applicant should be getting some of these questions.
Right.
But it's my understanding, yes, the dance hall starts around 11 o'clock or so.
One question for you, Mike.
Sure.
Why did they not file a security management plan? That was a stipulation we put on them 3 years ago.
Yep, we're not sure why that wasn't done, and
We don't follow up on those things?
we typically do a one-year review, and that's just something that for some reason we didn't go back and verify, and that's one of those that we are going to do a little more close look in the future.
Further questions, Vernon?
Mike, is there any way that we can confirm that the percentages of food versus alcohol? I mean, do we just...
No, unless you look at their books and their records.
And I'm still a little confused with the change that you're working out with Lori. Will the dance hall permits come to this body, or will that just be decided by planning office?
I would say that if, in this case, and I'm not trying to criticize Lori because
No.
she does a great job, but in this case, when the petitioner came for a dance hall license, and we knew that there was a restriction on alcohol to the restaurant, then they could have been told, and maybe they were told at that time, that you can have a dance hall license, but you can't serve alcohol. There just needs to be a little more communication in these kind of situations.
And they
we're-
weren't selling alcohol during this dance hall time?
I'm sorry?
They were not selling alcohol?
Yes, they have been.
Okay.
That's part of the problem.
Okay. And then the location of this, do you have any concerns in how it's related to the neighborhood that you're trying to revitalize right now?
As a restaurant, no.
As a dance hall, yes?
And again, we'll have a chance to consider that apparently this next month. But again, I think if they did what they said they were going to do under the original conditional use, I don't think there would be any neighborhood complaints.
Thank you.
Let's,
This evening, after our meeting with the county, I did stop down. That's a few blocks from my neighborhood, and I had the opportunity to talk with two people who are living right directly by there, and a third one who's here tonight. And in all cases, it was said that things have gotten a lot better since Go Bounce was no longer in business, and that none of them had a problem with the restaurant being open until 11. But the comments were that 11 o'clock, things shut down and got quiet. It was tolerable by all three people.
further questions of Mike D?
I do not believe that businesses should bother neighbors. I don't care what part of town they are in or who owns them. But I am concerned that an 11 o'clock stipulation is a bit discriminatory when, in fact, other restaurants and bars in town and commercial areas do not close at 11 o'clock. I mean, what am I missing on that?
Well, again, maybe we need to hear from the applicant, but this was based on a proposal from the petitioner. That's where that came from, and the neighbors.
Mike, and the residential neighborhood proximity to this location, a block maybe, or how far?
Yes, within a block.
And then of the other liquor establishments throughout the community, wouldn't it be fair to say the majority of those are within a block of a residential neighborhood
Quite a few
as
of
well?
them, yep. The ones that, yes, and many of those are restaurants that serve alcohol.
Further questions of Mike, Bob?
Just a comment. In this case, their residence is directly across the street on two sides.
Further questions, Vernon?
Could we hear from the petitioner, please?
Yeah, when we finish with Mike, we'll ask for further people. So, any other questions of Mike? Thank you, Mike. Others who wish to address the council on item number 16?
Good evening. My name is James Simcoe, and I represent the petitioner in this matter. This is Mulgeta Endahu, who owns Lalibela. And I'd just like to clarify two things. In 2003, when he opened a business and got these permits, he thought he was in compliance. And his intention was then and always was, I'm going to have a restaurant. I'm going to have a restaurant during the week. And on Saturday and Sunday nights, I'm going to have this dance hall. And during this whole time, he thought he was in compliance. Now, 2006, September is the first time he learned he was not in compliance, and that's when he came and talked to me. And we've been trying to work with the planning department on various options to keep things open. That's how we arrived at this stipulation. We asked at the Planning Commission meeting last week for some various options. Obviously, we'd like to keep the dance hall open, but the feedback we were getting at the Planning Commission meeting was, hey, if you're going to continue to keep this dance hall open, we're going to recommend revocation of your permit. So we, to avoid that recommendation, we said, okay, for now, we'll comply. We'll go ahead and say we'll be open from 10 to 11. We'll shut down the dance hall, and we'll submit a new conditional use application to have the neighborhood and the council reconsider the appropriate operations for this facility. So we're in that process. And we did, on October 11, hand deliver to Lori Bossman's office an updated security plan that we worked and got approval from Greg Schmidt on. And so those items have been submitted. And if you've got any other questions, I'm happy to address them, but I just wanted to bring up those clarifications.
Questions? Okay.
Yes. Let me just clarify. You're a lawyer representing the...
That's correct.
Okay. I think there's question whether he's actually in violation of the original conditional use permit. It seems like he does not believe that. He was in violation.
No, we agree that there's question.
Question, but it's not totally clear?
That's correct. It's not totally clear, and from the feedback we were getting, we're making a business decision as to what's the most time-effective way to get this through, and that's why we elected to go this route. But we agree. It's not clear to us that we're completely in violation of the conditional use permit.
Kevin?
Mr. Semko, you said that before September of this year, you had no idea that there was a possible violation. You said violation, now you say possible violation. Was there no indication from the neighbors that there was a problem?
There were some police calls during that time. That's correct, but I think there are at any establishment, and even Mr. Schmidt testified that the types of calls that they were receiving were not necessarily out of the norm for this type of facility. Mr. Endehu retained security guards and took steps to try to address those plans, but there was no communication from the city, the Planning Commission, or any other office that said until September you are not in compliance with your conditional use permit. So when I say the first time we understood that the city felt we were not in compliance was when we received that communication in September of this year.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, is it your client's intent to apply for a dance hall license?
Well, we've already got the dance hall license. What we have submitted last week was a conditional use permit to clarify this issue of part-time restaurant operations, part-time dance operations. And I should also clarify that during the dance hours, it's 2 nights a week, Saturday night and Sunday night. And there is food served and there is alcohol served. It's not the full menu. It's more of an appetizer type menu on those Saturday, Sunday nights. So we're only talking about really 2 nights a week between the hours of 11 and 2 that's any different from our current operation.
Just to clarify, it is your client's intent to continue to have dance hall operations with alcohol service?
If we get clarification that we aren't going to get continued, that we're in compliance. We are, as of right now today, since the Planning Commission meeting, there are no dance hall operations going on whatsoever. We're operating as a restaurant during the week. Mr. Endehu can clarify whether his restaurant is open. Are you open during the day? He's on the weekend, too? He's open during the day, on the weekends, but he has suspended the dance hall operations until we get clarification of this issue. Because he thought he was in compliance the whole time. Compliance is important to him. He's not trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes here. And we're trying to say, hey, we're willing to work with folks and find out a way to make sure this works here.
Pat, you're next.
The percentages that we're talking about, in here it says 51% is food, 42% is alcohol. Is that including the latter hours of the dance hall operation, or is that only from the up until 11 o'clock?
That's including the entire operation.
That from open to close, the whole thing?
Yes.
D?
Mr.
Most of the time the liquor sale is during the during the dance.
Would you just please give us your name and your address, please?
Mulugeta Andayo, 1001 West 11th, Lalibela Restaurant. That's 41% of the alcohol beverage sale. That's during weekend, during the dance time. Most of our community, they came on the weekend. They came for fun. They can't get the food their home, but when they came out, they need to take the meal and they get drink, then they come for dance. So we use those sales during the weekend.
Other questions?
Mr. Simcoe, could your client, I mean, if in fact this council would decide to give you guys the green light to continue your dance hall operation with everything else, with the liquor bit and so forth, I mean, has your client hired enough security, extra security help, and is he really committed to following city ordinances, including noise and so forth, 100%? That's my question.
Yes, he's committed to comply 100%, and with respect to numbers of security guards on Saturday and Sunday nights, he has typically had 2 security guards from the Jerry James outfit there each of those nights, in addition to Mulgeta himself being there. And the security plan that we submitted this week indicated that we'll comply with everything. The security plan itself was primarily dealing with restaurant operations because we understood as we were submitting this that the security plan was for restaurant operations and we weren't going to be running the dance hall. However, we would work with Officer Schmidt. If he thinks we need more than 2 security guards, we'll do it. Whether we do it here or in the process of this other application that's pending, we're committed to talking with neighbors and figuring out what can we do, what are the issues, and how do we resolve it. So yes, 100% compliance.
And a follow-up question on that. And what about the hours? I mean, your client prefer an 11 o'clock as opposed to a 2 a.m. like the other bars, restaurants in our city?
No, my client would prefer the 2 a.m. Limitation.
So your food to liquor split is 58% to 42% from morning till 2 o'clock in the morning, right? Is that my understanding?
Monday to Friday, we work 10 to 10. Saturday and Sunday from 10 to 2.
And all of those hours encompassed, your split is 58-42.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Then my question is for Mike next. The accessory building or use definition that's in here, where does this come from?
Where does the accessory
use?
use?
Yeah, there's a in all this in the testimony, there's accessory building or use, and it goes on, says an accessory building or use is one in which lists out 5 different criteria. Is that in our code somewhere?
Yes.
Other questions of Mike or Jamie?
I'd like to make a motion.
What's your motion?
I believe there's a neighbor here also tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Does anybody else wish to address the council on item number 16?
Yeah, I guess, can I just
Go ahead.
ask I don't know, it seems to me, instead of going after this applicant, why aren't we trying to focus on the noise problem? I mean, that's what's really the concern of the neighbors. And I haven't really heard anything from anybody on trying to really resolve that problem of the noise that's taking place at night and keeping neighbors up.
Others wish to address the council on 16? Not. Do you have a motion?
A question.
Go ahead.
Could Mike, We've talked about the criteria for a restaurant and alcohol as an accessory use. What are the criteria for a dance hall? Does a dance hall have to have any kind of restrictions placed on it? Typically, does a bar require a dance hall license, or is that part of the bar license?
Again, a dance hall license is a totally separate application, and right now it just goes through a police and fire review process.
Does a bar automatically have a dance hall license?
No.
They have to apply for
They
it
have to
also.
apply.
Thank you.
And if I could just say, the reason this is coming to you tonight is in response to the neighborhood complaints that we heard, the police calls. So all that we're doing is we're trying to respond to the public that says, we've got a problem, let's bring it forward. And I'm surprised because Mr. Simcoe at the Planning Commission offered to limit the hours voluntarily until we could review this other application. We heard from the neighbors, and I'm not sure why they're not testifying tonight, so I'm a little confused about how this got to you as well, because we're just bringing it to you because we heard there's a problem, and we're trying to address the
Yeah,
problems.
Well, you know, the neighbors, rightfully so, are concerned about the noise level. I don't think they're really concerned about a conditional use permit or dance hall or anything. They just want the noise level reduced so they can sleep. And that's what we should be focusing on. That's it.
When this was brought to us for the conditional use, there was not any mention of a dance hall. It was only being presented as a restaurant.
Vernon?
I did visit with Mary, and there was a concern about the dance hall at that time going on, so that concern was there. Am I correct, Mary?
I kind of told the planning board, Mary Kramer, across the street from here, 1001, okay. I didn't even want their liquor license revoked because, like you said, it's a noise thing. There's no way, even if they put security in place, because I'm going to be candidly honest, we told them that the last 2 weeks they've been closed has been great. At 11 o'clock at night, Grange Plaza is now quiet. And I brought up the fact that Grange Plaza, I've lived there since it was Turnabout. Every business in there, whether it was a laundromat, a beauty shop, the pawn shop, they were all neighborhood businesses. The restaurant opened, they were a great restaurant. They didn't have a lot of business until they started staying open on weekends, and as much as they wanted to argue, I actually believe they took a lot of Just Bounce's business, but they claim they haven't. But it's the traffic. You have a car that comes in and out of there every 30 seconds. It's not like people go there to dance and stay for 3 hours and all get in their cars and go home. There is a car in and out of there every 30 seconds, and they're young. You turn your car on, your stereo's blaring. The lights hit my house, and up until 2 weeks ago, their security guy is the one that woke me up. Sunday night's quiet, okay? There's not a lot of traffic on Sunday nights, so all you hear is across the street. You hear a man stand outside at 1:45 screaming, "You have to leave now, you have to leave now, you have to leave now." You have intoxicated people who don't want to leave yet, so they argue with him, "We're not ready to leave," and he stands outside for 20 minutes, and that's what wakes me up. Some man screaming, "You have to leave now." And all the car, and like I said, literally, there's no way you're going to stop the traffic. And now they've opened up both accesses because the front access coming from Grange has been closed since the whole road construction. So you have to go in and out of Menlo. Now both of them are open again. And you literally, every 30 seconds, they go in, they come out, somebody else goes in, they come out, so you have traffic till 2 a.m. Okay, it's a noise thing, it's not an alcohol thing.
That's right.
Further questions? Brothers, wish to address the council on item number 16. Council discussion. Dee, did you have something?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion. I would like to make a motion that the conditional use permit at 1001 West 11th Street be continued with the following stipulations. Well, I don't even want to do the stipulation, but I want to indicate that I'd like to say my motion is to continue the conditional use permit as it was originally approved by the City Council with the expectation that it be followed exactly and immediately. That's my motion.
Everybody understand that motion?
No.
Okay, you want to repeat it? Tamara again. Conditional
You
use
just,
is basically what is it?
with the original conditional use
Conditional use,
permit without
please.
the stipulations indicated in the item.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Do you want, I don't know what you mean, Dee, sorry.
What-
Go ahead, Pat.
If, what we have before us is a revocation, if we vote against the revocation, doesn't the original conditional use permit automatically apply?
Gary?
Yes, I mean, that would be correct.
And a question? And the original conditional use permit allows 2 a.m., correct?
No.
It doesn't? I thought it did.
Doesn't have hours.
I'm sorry, what?
The
What
original,
what hours was it?
the original conditional use permit does not have hours, as I understand it. It is for
Yeah,
a
that's right. I'm
restaurant
sorry. I'm
with
sorry.
alcohol as an ancillary use. The issue would be continuing the current conditional use permit, whether malt beverage or alcohol can be sold during the hours when it's operated as a dance hall. And that is a question, I believe, that the conditional use permit would prohibit.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'd forgotten that. I'm in favor of the 2 a.m. Hours, but with the expectation that it be monitored well and that it not disrupt neighbors.
Mr. Mayor, I would move a substitute motion to approve the continuation of the conditional use permit with the stipulations that are spelled out before us. Business
Would you
hours.
say it again, Werner, please?
I would move a substitute motion to approve the conditional use permit that's existing with the stipulations outlined by the Planning Commission.
Okay, we have no motion on the table, so yours would be yours.
Oh, I thought
She
there was a
never got
motion.
second. So-
Okay, I make that motion.
So yours the motion. Does everybody understand the motion that Vernon is making?
And I second it.
I'd like you to repeat it.
Go, would you repeat again?
I would move to approve the conditional use permit with the stipulations that the Planning Commission has in place here. The business hours limited to no later than 11 p.m., a conditional use permit review in 6 months, and a security management plan approved by the police department.
Mr. Kevin seconded that. Everybody understand the motion? Okay, everybody understands the motion. All in favor of that motion? Browns will vote yes. Those opposed vote no.
Councilmembers Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knutson, Knutson,
Yeah, yes.
Litz,
No.
Staggers,
No.
Benninga,
No.
Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jameson.
Yes.
5 yes.
That motion passes. So item 16 has been approved as amended. Item 24.
Item 24 is deferred action, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota rezoning property at 57th Street and Old Yankton Road and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls to reflect current land uses. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a rezoning that's being initiated by city staff in our planned development zoning districts. Once they've been completely built out, substantially built out, we come back and rezone them to the conventional zoning districts as appropriate. This property is approximately 15 acres in size and is currently developed as an office park. And the recommendation is to rezone this to the office zoning district to reflect the existing land uses.
Questions of Mike on item number 24? Others wish to address the council on item 24? Council discussion or action on item 24?
Move for approval, Jameson.
Jameson moves. Is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Litz seconded. Further comments? Seeing no further comments, all in favor of approving item 24, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Benninga,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jameson.
Yes.
All members present voted. Item 24 has been approved 8-0. Item 25.
Item 25 is deferred action, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at West 57th Street and Old Yankton Road, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls to reflect current land uses. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is also a rezoning from a planned development district to an office district to reflect the current office park uses. This is about 23 acres in size, and the recommendation is to approve the zoning change.
Questions of Mike on item number 25? Others wish to address the council on item 25? Council discussion or action on item 25?
I move for approval. Knutson.
Knutson moved. Is there a second?
Second, Kavanaugh.
Kavanaugh seconded. Further comments? Seeing no further comments, all in favor of approving item 25, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Benega,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Item 25 is approved, 8-0. Item 26.
Item 26 is deferred action, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at Old Yankton Road and Ralph Rogers Road, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls to reflect current land uses. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is about 39 acres in size. The Yankton Trails Planned Development District was approved for residential uses, and it has been built out to that. We're now requesting it to be rezoned to the RS2, which allows single-family, and the RD, which allows twin homes.
Questions of Mike on item 26? It be noted that Councilmember Jamison will be excused from item 26. Others who wish to address the council on item 26? Council discussion or action on item 26?
I move for approval. Knutson.
Knutson, is there a second?
Second, Benega.
Benega seconded. Further comments? See no further comments? All in favor of approving item 26, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Benega,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison.
All members present voted 7 yes, 1 excused. Item 26 has been approved. Item 27.
Item 27 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by transferring licensing responsibilities to the City Finance Office.
Lori Bossman, City Finance Office. This ordinance change would transfer the administrative responsibilities of what we call the entertainment service licenses from the City Clerk's Office to the Finance Office. These duties were physically changed in 2005, and this is just putting the ordinance into compliance. And the other change is that the going out of business section has been removed from the ordinances. For years and years, we issued going out of business licenses, and we had an applicant who contested this particular license. It was declared unconstitutional. Since we can no longer issue that, we will just need to take it out.
Questions of Lori on item 27? Others that wish to address the council on item 27? Council discussion or action?
Move for approval, Benega.
Benega moves. Is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Litz seconded. Further comments? Seeing no further comments, all in favor of approving item 27, will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Benega,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
All members present voted. Item 27 has been approved 8-0. Item 28.
Item 28 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, to increase value added to the real property to $300,000 in calculating the reduced taxation for the reduced taxation program for structures within the city, adding an application procedure to Article 5 of the reduced taxation for new industrial structures, additions thereto within the city, along with making the real property ineligible for the new construction tax incentive if the business use changes during the 5-year period such that it would be ineligible.
This is an amendment that we've been working on with the Sioux Falls Development Foundation. Dan Nelson is here tonight, and Dan has been taking the lead role on working with the city and with the Development Foundation on making these changes. This program has been in place for a number of years, and this amendment would change the eligibility by adding an application procedure, a formal application procedure, which we have not done in the past. That application would be done up front by a potential developer, and that application process will be administered by the Assistant Director of Building Services and working with the various counties. The other change is that we're increasing the valuation to become eligible for this program. Currently, it's $100,000, and it's limited to new construction. This change amends that dollar amount to $300,000 and also provides for additions to existing buildings. And this program is the portion that deals with all the areas of Sioux Falls outside of the downtown business district. We're also providing for that this program would be ineligible, or the developer would be ineligible for this incentive if the business use changes during the 5-year period of the tax abatement program. Again, this is being done through a partnership with the Development Foundation, and Dan is also here tonight if you have any questions for him.
Questions? Kermit?
Yeah, I guess my primary concern with the change is going from the 100,000 to 300,000, because some people are going to ask the question, I mean, here we go again, you know, we're helping out larger businesses at the expense of smaller businesses. What is a good response to that?
I'll let Mr. Nelson take a shot at that one.
Dan Nelson, representing the Sioux Falls Development Foundation. Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Staggers, I think we've got to remember that the city is involved in the partnership that this program represents by incenting capital investment. So we're willing to forego property taxes for a brief period of time to get capital investment. Just as time has gone on and the value of a dollar has changed, I think it's time for that, what we define as a significant capital investment, to go up. And I think that significant projects, as we define in the industrial area or primary business area, that $300,000 is a very reasonable figure. And this was in consultation with the people that that are day in, day out pursuing economic development on behalf of our city, that this is a realistic number.
Further question, Kip?
Dan, when was this program instituted? Do you know?
I'm sorry?
When was this program or this ordinance instituted?
Well, I've been working with this program for 14 years. So I know it's been in existence at least that long. It's an outgrowth of a state statute, 80s at 85, according to the city attorney. So that was a good guess on my part.
Do you, and a brief history of some of the things that were fell under this category or under this ordinance, it seems like there was a relatively large amount of activity in the years 2004 and 2005, and very little in the couple of years that we have before that. Do you know why that might be? I mean, in fact, there were none in 2003 and one in 2002 and several in 4 and 5.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Costello, I think you might be referring to the list of projects in the downtown area.
No, this is outside of downtown.
This is outside of downtown? Well, the economic development activity comes and goes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you hit home runs one after another, and other times you don't. So we've had, if you said 2001 was a good year or a bad year?
2 and 3 were very slow, 4 and 5 were good.
I think that probably reflects what was happening in the economy in terms of business investment across the whole country. Although we are somewhat immune in this area, if I remember correctly, those were slower periods in our economy than the years preceding and since.
Thank you.
Further questions? Dan, thank you very much, Dan. Dee?
Dan, I was wondering if part of it was that we were, as a community, we were marketing that program more recently, and that's why there were more applications for tax abatement.
Well, and that's part of the reason for the application, is that we shouldn't really have to market it because it's automatic by making application for a building permit. But because we are such more complex than we used to be, and we have much more activity, to make sure we don't miss those people that should be counted as automatically eligible, we're bringing both parties to the transaction in on it. So now the whole burden isn't on the city to say, we can tell from what you're telling us on your application or in your permit that you're eligible. We're in fact saying, giving them an application and saying, help us determine if you're eligible. Because when you have agents come in and representing building owners, sometimes they're not asking the right questions, pressing the right issues. Hopefully by putting this application in place, we're solving part of that problem. So now, do we also need to more comprehensively educate the investors in this community, the developers and the contractors about these incentives? Yes, we do. And on the back end of these modifications, the Development Foundation in Main Street, Sioux Falls, needs to be working with those entities to get that job done as well.
Okay, and then just another question, and I had probably not given this topic enough thought. I mean, I'm obviously a cheerleader for more economic development and progress in our city always, and so forth, but I was thinking that this program had started at the time that ADP, was being encouraged to come to our city, and then going a step further is that, I guess I'm wondering if, again, all for economic development, but for existing businesses, if they are remodeling their conference room or whatever, I mean, would it be better policy on our part to limit this program to new businesses coming into our community?
Mr. Mayor, Council Member Knutson, your first question was, did we put this in, your impression was we put this in place for ADP. There was, in fact, a new incentive program put in place, coincidental with ADP coming here, and that was the sales tax rebate on capital machinery. So all the computers that they bought to put out there, we put a program in place. So that's that program.
Yeah.
The property tax program has been in place much longer. And the question you're asking, Councilmember Costello approached me before the meeting started tonight and asked the very same question. And you asked the important question of this debate: how do we strike a balance? What are we trying to incent? What's the right amount? We have decided as a policy in this community to have a broader application of this incentive in the downtown core to maintain the tax base and continue to get reinvestment in the downtown area. We're much more limited in the kind of incentives that we do outside of that defined downtown boundary. And I can tell you from my experience in interacting with this at the state legislature, outside of the downtown area, we're much more conservative and judicious in applying this incentive than virtually any other community in the state of South Dakota. So you asked the right question. I think the answer is let's look at it. Let's do an audit of the kinds of program or the kinds of projects that have qualified under this incentive. Make sure we talk with the county to find out what was in fact the real, because we're talking about the value of the construction project, but we also have to turn that into the value of the building when the county builds it into the person's property valuation. Let's find out how it came out on the other end and make decisions from there. But what we are in fact doing tonight on the next item with the downtown by raising the qualifying amount is doing maybe a lot more tightening is in order if you look at it. But in the amendment that's in front of you tonight, we're doing a little tightening at least. So none of the amendments that we have here tonight liberalize the program except for allowing rehabilitation of industrial structures.
I'm going to look kind of silly asking this question, but I don't understand why on our list we've got nonprofits, Center for Life Church, YMCA. They don't pay property tax.
Downtown core. The eligible projects, perhaps, because there are portions of nonprofits that have for-profit centers. If there's I'm taking a stab here with the YW, the YM, a daycare. I know that there are portions of our hospitals, although they're both nonprofit, our two major hospitals are nonprofit. There are portions of those that are taxable, so that would be my only answer without looking at your specific example.
Yeah, in regard to what Pat is saying there, I am kind of wondering here about the Orpheum. This is a city-owned facility and a $39,000. I can't understand how that would fit in at all. It's just 100% city, the Orpheum.
I'm sorry, what year?
2004. Yeah.
Then it's sent over as an eligible project, but it's city ownership, so there's no taxes to forgive. It's qualified by definition. Not in actuality as it comes out the other end. The county knows that that project is not on the tax roll.
Further questions of Dan? Others that wish to address the council on item number 28?
I urge your favorable consideration. Thanks.
Council discussion or action on item number 28? Move to approve. Brown moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Was that Bob? That's Litz seconded. Further discussion, Chairman?
Yeah, regretfully, I'm not going to be voting for this change. And the reason I'm not going to be voting for it is because we're moving it from 100,000 to 300,000 to be eligible. I remember when I was in the state Senate, we gave a 30% property tax reduction to homeowners, but we certainly didn't give it to businesses. Now, large businesses, of course, can absorb property taxes a lot better than small businesses, but here we're hurting these small businesses, and so I wish that we would include more small businesses here. So that's the reason I would prefer to keep it at 100,000 rather than raising it to 300,000.
Further comments? Got a motion been made and seconded to approve item 28. Further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion to approve item 28 will vote yes. Those opposed vote no.
Councilmembers Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers,
No.
Benega,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
All members present voted 7 yes, 1 no. Item 28 has been approved. Item 29.
Item 29 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by increasing the value added to the real property to $50,000 in calculating the reduced taxation for new industrial, commercial structures, additions thereto within the downtown center designated urban renewal area, along with renumbering Article 6, reduced taxation for new industrial, commercial structures, additions thereto within downtown center designated urban renewal area, and adding an application procedure to be followed in making the real property ineligible for the tax incentive if the business use changes during the 5-year period.
As Dan Nelson already testified, this particular change applies only to the downtown business district. The amendment increases the eligibility from $30,000 to $50,000. We're adding the application process, and we're putting in the 5-year eligibility timeline. This has been done in consultation with Main Street Sioux Falls of looking at this particular amendment.
Questions of Mike on item number 29? Others that wish to address the council on item number 29? Council discussion or action on item 29?
Move for approval, Jamison.
Jamison moved. Is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Litz seconded. Further comments? Go ahead.
Well, unfortunately, this is a second opportunity to hurt small businesses. Once again, let's just keep it at 30,000 instead of raising it to 50,000.
Further comments? We've got a motion that's been made and seconded to approve item number 29. I see no further discussion. All in favor of the motion to approve, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers,
No.
Benega,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
All members present voted. Item 29 has been approved, 7 yes, 1 no. Item 30.
Item 30 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by revising the allowable sign area of menu signs. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a change that's being initiated by city staff as a result of some of our new drive-in restaurant operations. There's a requirement to increase the size of the menu boards from 32 square feet, which is currently allowed by the city ordinance, up to 48 square feet. And this amendment would provide for that to happen.
Questions of Mike on item number 30?
I guess when I was reading this proposed ordinance, why does the city get involved in this kind of minutia? This seems completely unnecessary. Businesses know how big they want to have their menu signs outside.
I think as long as I've been with the city, signage has been always a difficult issue to address. We've had sign wars in the past because if there's no limits, everybody's going to want a little bit bigger than their neighbor. So,
But this is a menu sign.
We're trying to update our ordinance that was adopted in 1983, and this is one of the changes that we're going to make.
Further questions, Bob?
Mike, are these signs the ones that when you come to the drive up, so they're low to the ground? Is there like a minute maximum height? I mean,
No, but because of the increase in the menu items is another reason why they need to be bigger. So, again, we're just trying to update our ordinances to the current standards of the industry. But yeah, these are the menu boards that you come in when you drive through a fast food restaurant.
So they're generally not real obtrusive, sticking up in high in the sky. They've got to be visible from the
Right.
car windows.
Yes.
Okay.
Further questions? Let's go to 31.
Item 31 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 47279 85th Street and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls to construct a single-family residence. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This property was recently annexed by the city council. It's about just under 8 acres in size. And the purpose of the rezoning will be to construct a residence on this property, residential uses.
Questions of Mike on item number 31? Bob?
Is this somewhere near where the situation with, I think it's Mr. Elrod?
This is to the east of that area.
Further questions on 31? Let's go to 32.
Item 32 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at East 10th Street, 1/4 mile east of 6 Mile Road, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls to allow for residential development. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is the Parapassu proposed development plan. This is the residential portion that they're bringing through for approval. This will allow single-family as well as recreation conservation uses to be developed on this property. At the date of the second reading, we'll also be having a subdivision plan as well as a land use amendment for the City Council to consider. This is about 246.5 acres in size.
Questions of Mike on item number 32? Bill?
Mike, how will this affect the east side sewer system, and how close to the completion is that project?
The east side lift station is scheduled to be, and Mark is in the audience, it's still scheduled to be online late summer next year, 2007. And so this development will be served by that sanitary sewer lift station.
So until that's developed, we won't have any other problems with capacity issues?
Right. This land that you're approving for rezoning will most likely start development next year, but will not be actually hooking up until probably 2008.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, Pat?
Mike, this is the ground that's on the east side of Willow Run?
Yes, this is on the east side of 6 Mile Road, and it extends over to Willow Run Golf Course.
And they had a property on the west side as well, didn't they?
Yep, and we're coming up to that
Oh,
a little bit later. This is the residential portion of their development.
Further questions on 32? Let's go to 33 then.
Item 33 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 308 West Lotta Street and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls to bring land uses into conformance with the zoning district. Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is kind of an unusual request. This is a parcel that is actually non-conforming. It was developed prior to the annexation. It's been used in the past as a contractor shop and other industrial uses. It's an industrial-looking structure. The applicant is proposing to operate an internet car sales business in this building. In order for them to get a state dealer's license, they have to comply with the city zoning, and the city zoning currently does not allow a car sales in this particular property of this building. So this is the way that we've come up with to try to address allowing that use to continue. And we put, with the planned development zoning district being proposed, because it is surrounded by residential development, we would limit the uses to the contractor shop, an office, a warehouse, and internet auto sales. And they would be limited to 3 outside display vehicles, and that was based on some neighborhood meetings that the petitioners had.
Questions of Mike on item number 33? Bob?
And those outside storage have to be operational vehicles?
Yes, yes.
Further questions, item 33? Let's go to 34.
Item 34 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 3428 North 4th Avenue, amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls to allow a multifamily structure to be moved onto the property. Planning Commission recommends approval.
This parcel of land is just under 1 acre. It's located on the east side of 4th Avenue, and it's adjacent to a 12-plex apartment building directly to the north. And there's office uses to the west, and then single-family and vacant to the east and south. The applicant is proposing to rezone this land to multifamily. There's an existing fourplex on Minnesota Avenue that they would like to move onto this site and actually convert it into a sixplex apartment building. And that's the purpose of the rezoning, is to move this structure and renovate it into a 6-unit apartment building.
Questions of Mike on item number 34?
Yeah.
Let's go to 30. Go ahead.
I have one question. I was on 4th Avenue just the other day, and I saw a structure that looked like that just sitting there for sale. Is that something else?
Does it look like the picture? Then maybe if they've already moved it.
Are you up in
and they're
North
waiting
Fourth?
for the zoning.
No, that's not the same one. That's
not
been there
the
for a
same.
long time.
Is it?
That's
Okay.
for sale now.
All right.
Okay.
That's not the same one.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Further questions on 34? Let's go to 35.
35 is a first reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 2816 South Center Avenue and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls to expand an existing dental clinic. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a request to add on to the existing dental office with additional parking. Dr. Tim Kappeman is the petitioner and is looking at acquiring this property and rezoning it to expand the dental clinic and surrounding parking.
Questions on 35? Go to 36.
An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, first reading, rezoning property at 5109 South Cliff Avenue and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls to allow limited retailing. The Planning Commission recommends denial.
This is a request to change the zoning of an existing office building on South Cliff Avenue. This building was constructed south of the new Sunshine grocery store. This has an interesting history because I think on a couple of different occasions the city was approached by developers wanting to change this to commercial zoning. And after meeting with the neighbors and looking at surrounding land uses, there was a lot of opposition to doing that. So the property was approved for office zoning as a way of buffering the single-family residential to the south and to the west and the future commercial development that we were anticipating to the north. It also lines up with office zoning across on the east side of Cliff Avenue. The petitioner that currently owns this building constructed it knowing what the zoning was and knowing that there was neighborhood opposition to commercial zoning. And now after the building has been opened, they are coming in with a request to modify the zoning to allow retail uses within this property. They've had neighborhood meetings. The neighbors are still opposed to the office being changed. We have a letter of opposition from property on the east side of Cliff Avenue, and the Planning Commission is recommending denial of this because they want to maintain this office buffer in accordance with our original neighborhood meetings that we've had over the years.
Questions of Mike on item number 36? 37.
Item 37 is a first reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 6 Mile Road and South Dakota Highway 42 and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls to allow commercial development. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is the Parapassu development that will be the commercial usage, and this is located on the west side of 6 Mile Road and the north side of Highway 42. It's about 191 acres in size, and this is the result of a lot of neighborhood meetings and input by city staff as well as the Department of Transportation. During the second reading, when we present this to you, we'll also be presenting you with a subdivision plan and a land use amendment that has also been reviewed by the Planning Commission and surrounding neighbors. So this is the commercial portion of their proposed development.
Mike, the ground that's directly to the north of that, that's shaded in green on our map here, what is that zoned? Or is that part of it?
Which map are you looking at? No.
It looks like it's north of the East 10th Street. I suppose maybe that's part of the program.
Right.
Okay, the ground that's north of that.
The land that's north of that is zoned agricultural, and it's proposed for future residential or office uses.
So will there need to be a buffer between the commercial and the...
Right, and when we present this to you next time, we'll talk about the land to the north is owned by the Andersons, and they've had a number of meetings with Parapassu about establishing a buffer. And so we'll be presenting that to you at the second reading. But that is an important point that we'll look at. so that we don't go from just commercial to
Residential.
residential.
Further questions on 37? Let's go to 38.
Item 38 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a major amendment at 7210 West 41st Street, allowing changes in land use as reflected in the revised sub-area regulations to allow telecommunications facilities as an allowed land use. The Planning Commission recommends approval with the following stipulation, that the telecommunications tower is subject to a stealth design approved by the Planning Director.
We've had a number of requests in recent years for these telecommunication structures, the antenna support structures. And because of the locations, in many cases, we've been requiring them to use what we call stealth design. Most recently, they're flagpoles, and this is proposed to be a flagpole. The applicant has indicated that the structure would be a 100-foot high flagpole with an overall height of 103.5 feet, and it's located adjacent to the Ace Hardware area. And this is an amendment to allow that land use to be developed in this particular zoning district.
Questions, Mike, on 38? Vernon?
Do you know what this tower will be used for, Mike?
I do not, but I can find that out before we have the second.
And I wasn't able to see, where is it going to be located on the property?
There's a circle. It would be an antenna support structure there with a small building for their mechanical equipment.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll find out more specifics of how it's going to be used.
I continue to have a concern as more and more technologies go wireless that we as a city not make it too difficult, or I'm afraid we're going to end up not getting those technologies within the city.
Oh, yes. Mike, can you also find out the additional cost that's going to be required of the applicant to make it a stealth?
I'll have to find that out because I don't know.
And also federal law. Federal law places restrictions on local governments, too, in regard to towers. Are we in compliance with federal law here by requiring it to be stealth?
I'm not sure that we're not. I mean, I believe we are, yeah.
Further questions of item 38? Not.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a motion to set the hearing date for the second reading for November 6th for items 30 through 38?
So moved, Jameson.
Jameson moved. Is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Litz seconded. Further comments? All in favor of setting the hearing date for November 6th for items 30 through 38 will vote yes. Those opposed vote no.
Council members Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
All members present voted. The hearing date has been set for November 6th for 30 through 38, 8-0. Item 39.
Item 39 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, approving the release of permanent utility and access easements.
Shannon Nosson with the Sioux Falls Public Works Engineering Division. This is a resolution brought to us by the property owner. During the course of the last couple of years, there has been numerous plats in this immediate area designating a utility and a permanent mutual access easement. Since then, the petitioner has sold the property, and they would like to clean up this entire parcel and permanently remove the utility and access easement that currently exist on the property.
Questions on number 39? Not. Is there a motion to set the hearing date for the second reading for November 13th for item 39?
So moved, Benninger.
Is there a second?
I second that, Knutson.
Okay, Knutson seconded. Motion been made and seconded. Bennigan and Knutson, all in favor of that motion to set the hearing date for November 13th will vote yes. Those opposed vote no.
Council members Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
All members present voted. The hearing date has been set for November 13th for item 39, 8-0. Item 40.
Item 40 is a resolution including certain contiguous territory within the corporate limits of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Runge Velocity Avenue, East 60th Street North, and North Sycamore.
This property up in the northeast corner of Sioux Falls was recently annexed for future industrial park development. And based on their subdivision plan, there's an additional 33 feet that we need to annex for a street that will be called Velocity Avenue to be developed into this property off of 60th Street North. So this petition is to add another 33 feet for future right-of-way.
Questions of Mike on item number 40? Others that wish to address the council on item number 40? Council discussion or action? Is there a motion?
Move for approval. Benninga.
Benninga moves. Is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Litz seconded. Further comments? Seeing no further comments, all in favor of approving item 40, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Council members Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Benninga,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
All members present have voted. Item 40 has been approved 8-0. Item 41.
Item 41 is a resolution declaring it necessary to levy and levying a frontage assessment against the lots, tracts, and parcels of land fronting and abutting upon 21st Street from Phillips Avenue to 7th Avenue in the city of Sioux Falls for the purpose of maintaining, planting, and otherwise improving and caring for the center parkways and boulevard thereon.
Don Kearney with Parks and Recreation Department. This resolution before you would levy assessments on the properties on 21st Street from Phillips Avenue to 7th Avenue. This assessment was put in place back in 1915, whereby the affected property owners initiated an assessment to allow for the maintenance and care of the medians in front of their properties. Since then, on several occasions, they've actually asked the city if we would actually increase the assessments on their properties in order to continue to provide care and maintenance and improvements of those medians. All 53 properties that are impacted will be assessed 85 cents per front foot, and it really comes down to about $62 per year for an average assessment for each property owner. We aren't aware of any complaints or concerns with regard to the assessment, and our staff tells us that the only message we get generally is that make sure you keep it looking nice. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Questions of Don?
Yeah, I have a number of questions. Don, you mentioned that the people in the area want that. I guess I've never heard of anybody come to me and say they really want this boulevard tax placed on their property. So when was the last time people told you they wanted this boulevard tax?
They've not personally told me that they want this tax, but over the years, over the course of the years, and as recently as 1997, actually asked to have that increased, the assessment increase.
So 9 years ago. I guess my question has always been about this boulevard tax. Why are we doing this? Because this is in the center of 21st Street. This is city property, and why are we having these people taxed to take care of this city property? It doesn't even belong to these people. It doesn't make sense philosophically that we would have these people pay for it. It's not even their property, it's the city's.
I think the rationale behind it is that it receives the level of care that the other boulevards and medians in the city do not receive, and so the property owners in that area also have quite a bit of input on how those are maintained, how they're cared for, the type of plant material that's installed in the medians, and so as a result of that, by having some of that input and feedback, they're asked to pay for that because most of the time we don't have irrigation and specialized plant material installed in those medians.
Also, too, there are two addresses on 21st Street. They don't even have their property, is not even in front of the boulevard. 201 East 21st Street, 412 East 21st Street, but they're being assessed for this. Do you think that, could we maybe amend them out? Would that be okay? Because the boulevard, the central boulevard, is not even in front of their house.
Yeah, when it was originally created, it talks about that 21st Street from the west side of Phillips Avenue to the east side of 7th Avenue.
Yeah.
So I don't know if those properties fall in within.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I go past them every day.
Okay.
Would it be okay to maybe have an amendment to exempt them? Because, once again, the boulevard is not even in front of them. Not 1 inch of their property faces the boulevard.
Yeah. I can't answer that right now.
Okay. I guess another question I have, too, is this has already been in the budget. This is already in the budget, and I'm wondering why we didn't deal with this before we passed the budget.
I think the primary deadline that we go by is what the assessment deadline is for the county to be able to get this over to the county. And so that's brought forward at that time so that it can be assessed on the 2007 taxes.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that could have been done before, we passed the budget. In other words, once again, this is like the frontage tax. I mean, that was passed after we passed the budget. I mean, it should work the other way. It should be, we should be dealing with these before we have the budget. I guess that's my concern about that.
Gerald?
It's my understanding that all property tax assessments that we make for revenue are an estimate and aren't actually verified until the assessments come in. So we do make estimates all the time.
Further questions on item, Litz?
I just had a comment. The other day, I was on my way over to Councilor Stagger's house, and I drove down 21st Street, and I thought that looked great and enhanced the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin?
Don, I have a suggestion or a question.
Yes.
What if we just cut out the flowers and bushes, ripped out the sprinkler system, and put it into grass? What do you think the neighbors would say?
There's no sprinkler system.
Thank you.
But let me also ask
Okay.
a question, if I could, to
Go ahead.
Don. Do you think the residents there would really mind if the city would take care of that and maintain it to the standards that it's been in the past, instead of having them pay for it? Do you think they'd mind if the city would actually pay for it?
I doubt they would mind if they didn't have to pay, no.
Yeah.
Further questions on item number 41? Thank you. Others wish to address the council on item number 41? Come on up, Pete. Pete, you want to come up, give your name and address, please? Thanks.
Pete Hassenstein, and I live on the boulevard. And the reason we have agreed to pay the additional amount of money is we were going to have the park department had threatened us to kind of get rid of the boulevard altogether if we didn't. So we went ahead and everyone on 21st had agreed to pay the extra amount of money so that there would be an upkeep. And this, we like what there's been doing, but I can't see that there would be any justification in the future for, they don't put much time or money into it. Very little. They put in a sprinkler system and maybe come around and mow once a week, but they really don't do much.
Thanks, Pete.
Yeah.
Kermit's got a question
Yeah.
for you.
How
Pete,
long-
come on back up.
Yeah. How long ago did the Parks Department mention that to you, that you better pay or it's going to be taken out?
I suppose when they redid the boulevard, right, Mother? But you know, when they redid the boulevard. And then one other time they didn't take care of it for quite a while, and then they told us they had to increase it, the assessment, or they weren't going to do it anymore. And that's when there was an agreement.
Thanks, Pete. Others wish to address council on item number 41? Council discussion or action on
I'd
item
like to
number
move
41?
for approval of item number 41.
Knutson moved. Is there a second?
Second, Jameson.
Jameson second. Further discussion on item, Kermit?
Yeah. Unfortunately, the people on 21st Street between Phillips and 7th Avenue are being treated a little bit differently than other citizens. They already do take care of the city sidewalks on 21st Street. They already take care of the city trees on 21st Street. Next year, they're going to have an increase in their property taxes. Next year, they're going to have an increase in their frontage tax for streets. And then, unlike other people, they're going to have the boulevard tax. A boulevard tax which is actually higher than the frontage tax for streets. So I don't think these people on 21st Street are being treated fairly at all. Enough is enough when it comes to taxing 21st Street. The Parks Department can go ahead and take care of the boulevard with the budget they have already.
Further comments, Kevin?
Once again, it's not just a boulevard. It's a boulevard with flowers and bushes, and it's watered. It's not a typical boulevard. And I wouldn't be so eager to vote for this if it weren't for the property owners along that boulevard that said, yes, do it, please.
Threatened.
We're close to
Threatened.
committee council discussion. Further comments? Vernon?
Just as a testament to what the park employees do have to do there,
I drive on that street every day too, and in the summertime I see one of Don's employees out in that boulevard every morning before 8 o'clock pruning and trimming flowers. There's no other boulevard in this city that happens on. I'd urge your approval.
Got a motion been made and seconded to approve item 41. Further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion to approve, a vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Council members Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers.
No.
Benninga.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
All members present have voted. Item 41 has been approved, 7 yes, 1 no. Item 42.
Item 42 is a resolution vacating North Potter Avenue from West Thielen Street to approximately 213 feet north and West Thielen Street from North Career Avenue to North Potter Avenue.
This is a resolution brought forth by the adjacent property owners to vacate an unimproved public right-of-way. This is near the vicinity of Benson Road and Career Avenue. It also coincides with the new development plan that's been submitted for this area. Just recently, in fact, last week, the City Council approved North Louise and Markey Avenue street vacation, which this Thielen and Potter Avenue do coincide with the whole entire redevelopment plan of this area. There will be no utility easements maintained, and currently, right now, there was a public meeting with no comments raised.
Question to Shannon on item number 42. Others that wish to address the council on item number 42? Council discussion or action? Is there a motion?
No, we're setting a date of hearing, so we just
Oh,
go
we
to
just
item
set-
43.
Oh,
Item
this
40.
is- Okay, we're just setting the hearing date for all these, aren't we?
Yep. Item 43
Okay,
is a
good.
resolution vacating North Furniture Circle from East Hanks Lane north to the end of the cul-de-sac.
This resolution vacates public right-of-way that was improved. It is an urban street. The petitioner has changed their development plans and actually is looking forward to expanding their business further to the west. There was a letter sent out to adjacent property owners with no opposition from basically the surrounding area or the surrounding neighbors, which there aren't very many in the area. There will be no utility easements maintained, and from city staff, there are no concerns.
Questions on item 43? Let's go to 44.
Item 44 is a resolution vacating North Markey Avenue from Louise Avenue to North Markey Avenue.
This item, again, is in the area of Benson Road and Career Avenue and coincides with the street vacation that was adopted by the City Council last week. This basically, again, is unimproved right-of-way and will line up with the new subdivision plan that the petitioner has submitted for approval. No utility easements will be maintained, and again, a public meeting has already been held with no opposition.
Questions of Shannon, item 44? Let's go to 45.
Item 45 is a resolution vacating South Kiwanis Avenue from West Bitterroot Street to West 85th Street.
This petition is for vacating existing right-of-way of Kiwanis Avenue down off of 85th Street and Kiwanis Avenue. This has recently been a very active area as far as public involvement in finding solutions to public right-of-way on adjacent property owners' backyards. There's been numerous public meetings that have been held to this point, and with the help of the developer, city staff, and the neighbors, we've come to a resolution by basically removing the public right-of-way on Kiwanis Avenue and relocating it over to Pinnacle Avenue, which is the street immediately adjacent to the east. Currently, right now, all the petitioners or all the property owners to the north of Auburn Hills Street have signed the street vacation, and the developer also on the east side has also signed the petition in support of the street vacation. In addition, we are working on a minor amendment to the subdivision plan to make Pinnacle Avenue the new collector street going down to 85th Street. There will be a utility easement maintained in the backyards of the folks adjacent to the existing Kiwanis Avenue, and currently, right now, we haven't heard of any major opposition to the street vacation.
Questions on 45? Let's go to 46.
Item 46 is a resolution vacating North 1st Avenue from East Maple Street to East Birch Street, East Birch Street from North 1st Avenue to North 2nd Avenue, and North 2nd Avenue from East Maple Street to East Birch Street.
This resolution is to vacate public right-of-way in the north end of the city off of 4th Avenue and North Drive. The current public right-of-way is unimproved and is currently being used basically for contractor storage. There is being equipment and such parked on our public right-of-way. We have basically no permanent utility easement needs in this area, and currently, right now, there was a public meeting, and there was held on October 6th, and there was not any major issues that were raised for this right-of-way vacation.
Questions of Shannon on item 46? Not, is there a motion to set the hearing date for items 42 through 46 for November 13th?
So moved.
Costello moved. Is there a second?
Second, Jameson.
Jameson seconded. All in favor of setting hearing date for items 42 through 46 for November 13th? Vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Council members Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
All members present voted. The hearing date has been set for November 13th for items 42 through 46. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Kavanaugh, is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Brown seconded. All in favor will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Council members Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Stand adjourned.
Oh, I was hoping to be last. Boy, learned a lot, right? Yeah, I know.
These meetings just wouldn't be as much fun with all your students.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yes. They love it so much.
They're doing it actually right. Collecting.
What's that? Oh, no, we didn't. It wasn't even 2 hours. We've had meetings go past midnight.
Thank you, darling. Oh,
You learned so much more tonight.